Welcome to UberSchool's comprehensive guide on mitigation techniques used to secure the enterprise. I'm Pete, and joining me today is my esteemed colleague.
Dana here, Pete. Glad to be part of this UberSchool production. Securing an enterprise is like building a fortress. You need multiple layers of defense.
Absolutely, D-Man. And today we're going to break down these layers for our future cybersecurity professionals. Let's start with segmentation. Can you give us an overview, Dana?
Certainly, Petey boy. Segmentation is a crucial technique in network security. It's like dividing a large house into separate rooms, each with its own lock. In network terms, we're talking about dividing a larger network into smaller subnetworks or segments.
Great analogy. So why is this important for enterprise security?
Well, it's all about containment, Pete. If a breach occurs in one segment, it's much harder for the attacker to move to other parts of the network. It's like containing a fire to one room instead of letting it spread through the whole house.
That makes sense. So it's not just about preventing attacks, but also limiting their impact if they do occur. What about application segmentation?
That's another critical aspect. Application segmentation isolates applications from each other and the underlying infrastructure. It's like keeping your dangerous chemicals in separate, locked cabinets in your garage. If one gets compromised, the others are still safe.
I love how you always have these relatable analogies, Dana. Now let's test our listeners' understanding with a question. Which of the following is not a benefit of network segmentation?
A. Improved network performance. B. Enhanced security. C. Easier compliance management. D. Elimination of all security threats.
Take a moment to think about it, folks. We'll reveal the answer shortly. Now let's move on to access control. Dana, what can you tell us about access control lists?
Access control lists, or ACLs, are like the bouncers at an exclusive club, Pete. They specify who gets in, who doesn't, and what they're allowed to do once they're inside. In technical terms, ACLs define which users or system processes are granted access to objects and what operations they can perform on those objects.
That's a great explanation. And how does this tie into the principle of least privilege?
The principle of least privilege is all about giving users only the permissions they absolutely need to do their jobs. Nothing more. It's like giving your valet the car key, but not the key to your house. This minimizes the potential damage if an account is compromised.
Excellent point. Now, before we move on, let's reveal the answer to our previous question. The correct answer is D, elimination of all security threats. While segmentation greatly enhances security, it doesn't eliminate all threats.
That's right, Pete. There's no silver bullet in cybersecurity. It's all about layering defenses. Speaking of which, shall we discuss application allow listing?
Absolutely, Demon. Application allow listing, also known as whitelisting, is a powerful security strategy. Can you break it down for us?
Sure thing, Petey. Application allow listing is like having a stripped guest list for a party. Only the applications on the list are allowed to run on the systems. Everything else, including potential malware, is blocked at the door.
That's a great way to put it. How do organizations typically implement this?
There are several ways, Pete. Some use built-in operating system features, others rely on third-party software, and many enterprise environments use group policies. Each approach has its pros and cons, and the choice often depends on the specific needs and resources of the organization.
Interesting. Are there any challenges with this approach?
Oh, absolutely. While allow listing significantly reduces the risk of malware execution, it requires careful management. It's like maintaining that party guest list. You need to regularly update it to avoid disrupting legitimate software needs, especially in dynamic environments where software requirements change frequently.
That makes sense. Now, let's test our listeners again. Which of the following is a potential challenge of implementing application allow listing?
A. Increased risk of malware execution. B. Higher network latency. C. Difficulty in managing legitimate software needs. D. Reduced system performance.
Think about it, folks. We'll come back to this. Now, Dana, let's talk about isolation techniques. What can you tell us about sandboxing?
Sandboxing. It's like putting a potentially dangerous experiment in a controlled environment. In cybersecurity terms, sandboxing involves running applications or processes in isolated environments with limited access to system resources.
And why is this useful?
It's particularly useful for containing potential threats and allows for safe testing of suspicious files or applications. If something goes wrong in the sandbox, it doesn't affect the rest of the system.
That's fascinating. What about virtual environments? How do they fit into this picture?
Virtual environments take isolation a step further, Pete. They're like creating entire separate worlds within your computer. These can be used to separate sensitive processes, test potentially malicious software, or create secure development environments.
And I imagine they're quite flexible too.
Absolutely. The beauty of virtual environments is that they can be easily reset or discarded if compromised without affecting the host system. It's like having a reset button for your computer's state.
That's incredibly useful. Now let's reveal the answer to our previous question. The correct answer is C, difficulty in managing legitimate software needs. While allow listing is powerful, it can be challenging to maintain in dynamic environments.
Spot on, Pete. It's all about balancing security with usability and efficiency.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to a critical but often overlooked aspect of security, patching. Dana, can you explain why patching is so important?
Certainly, Petey. Patching is like fixing the cracks in your fortress walls before the enemy can exploit them. It involves identifying, acquiring, testing, and installing updates to systems and applications. This process is crucial for mitigating known vulnerabilities in a timely manner.
That's a great analogy. What are some of the challenges organizations face with patching?
One of the biggest challenges is balancing security with operational continuity. Organizations often grapple with the choice between automated and manual patching. Automated patching can improve efficiency and consistency, ensuring that systems are updated quickly. However, it may introduce risks if patches are not properly tested before deployment.
And what about manual patching?
Manual patching allows for more control and thorough testing, but can be resource-intensive, especially in large environments. Many organizations opt for a hybrid approach, automating patches for less critical systems, while manually managing updates for mission-critical infrastructure.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, let's test our listeners again. Which of the following is not a typical step in the patch management process?
A. Identifying available patches. B. Testing patches in a non-production environment. C. Installing patches on all systems simultaneously. D. Monitoring systems post-patch installation.
Take a moment to think about it, folks. We'll reveal the answer soon. Now let's move on to a cornerstone of data protection, encryption. Dana, can you give us an overview?
Certainly, Pete. Encryption is like putting your data in an unbreakable safe. Even if someone gets their hands on it, they can't read or use it without the key. We typically discuss two main types of encryption, data at rest and data in transit.
Can you elaborate on those for us?
Of course. Encrypting data at rest protects information stored on devices or in databases. It's crucial for mitigating risks associated with physical theft or unauthorized access to storage systems. If an attacker manages to steal a hard drive or gain access to a database, properly encrypted data remains unreadable and protected.
That's really important. And what about data in transit?
Data in transit encryption protects information as it moves across networks. This includes using protocols like TLS/SSL for web traffic and VPNs for remote access. It's like sending your message in a secure, tamper-proof envelope. Even if an attacker intercepts it, they can't read or modify the contents without the encryption key.
Excellent explanation, Dana. Now let's reveal the answer to our previous question. The correct answer is C, installing patches on all systems simultaneously. This approach can be risky and is generally not recommended in a proper patch management process.
That's right, Pete. It's important to have a staged approach to patching to minimize potential disruptions.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to monitoring and the principle of least privilege. Dina, can you start by explaining the importance of log analysis?
Certainly, PD. Log analysis is like being a detective in the digital world. It involves collecting and examining log data from various systems and applications. This helps in detecting security incidents, troubleshooting problems, and identifying patterns of interest.
That sounds crucial for maintaining security. What about SIEM systems?
Security information and event management systems. They're like the central nervous system of your security operations. SIEM tools aggregate and analyze log data from multiple sources in real time. They help in detecting, correlating, and responding to security events across the entire enterprise infrastructure.
Fascinating. Now, can you explain the principle of least privilege?
The principle of least privilege is a fundamental concept in cybersecurity. It's like giving each employee a key that only opens the doors they need for their job, nothing more. In technical terms, it involves granting users and processes only the minimum permissions necessary to perform their functions.
Why is this so important?
It significantly reduces the potential impact of compromised attempts or malicious insiders. If an account is compromised, the damage is limited to only what that account had access to. It's a critical component of a robust security strategy.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, let's test our listeners again. Which of the following best describes the principle of least privilege?
A. Granting users all possible permissions to ensure productivity. B. Providing users with only the permissions necessary for their job functions. C. Restricting all users to the same set of basic permissions. D. Allowing users to determine their own access levels.
Think about it, folks. We'll come back to this. Now, Dana, let's talk about configuration enforcement and decommissioning. What can you tell us about baseline configurations?
Baseline configurations are like the blueprint for your secure systems, Pete. They define standard, secure settings for systems and applications. Enforcing these baselines helps maintain consistency across the enterprise.
And how do organizations ensure these baselines are maintained?
That's where continuous monitoring comes in. It's like having a vigilant guard, constantly checking that everything is as it should be. Many organizations use automated remediation tools to maintain compliance with security standards efficiently.
Interesting. What about when it's time to retire systems or data?
Decommissioning. It's often overlooked but crucial for security. When decommissioning systems or storage devices, we need to ensure all data is securely removed. It's like making sure you've emptied all the drawers and safes before you move out of a house.
What techniques are used for this?
There are several secure data removal techniques, Pete. These include multipass overwriting or physical destruction of storage devices. The goal is to ensure sensitive information is not recoverable. It's crucial to have well-documented asset disposal procedures to prevent data leaks from discarded or repurposed hardware.
That's really important. Now let's reveal the answer to our previous question. The correct answer is B, providing users with only the permissions necessary for their job functions. This is the essence of the principle of least privilege.
Exactly, Petey. It's all about minimizing potential damage while still allowing people to do their jobs effectively.
Well said, Dana. Now let's move on to hardening techniques and host-based security. Can you start by explaining system hardening?
Certainly, Pete. System hardening is like fortifying a castle. It involves various techniques to reduce the attack surface. This includes implementing strong encryption for data storage and communication, using robust algorithms, and proper key management.
What about endpoint protection?
Endpoint protection is crucial in today's environment. It's like having a personal bodyguard for each device. This includes installing and maintaining antivirus software, anti-malware tools, and personal firewalls. These provide an additional layer of security on individual devices.
And host-based firewalls, how do they fit into this picture?
Host-based firewalls are like security checkpoints for each device. They should be configured to allow only necessary inbound and outbound connections. Best practices include implementing default deny policies and conducting regular rule reviews.
That's really comprehensive, Dana. Any other hardening techniques you'd like to mention?
Absolutely, Pete. Other important hardening techniques include disabling unnecessary ports and protocols, changing default passwords, and removing unnecessary software. These steps significantly reduce the attack surface of systems and devices.
Excellent. Now let's test our listeners one last time. Which of the following is not typically considered a system hardening technique?
A. Disabling unnecessary services. B. Implementing strong password policies. C. Installing all available software updates. D. Enabling automatic software downloads.
Think about it, folks. We'll reveal the answer in a moment. But first, Dana, I've been meaning to ask you, have you heard about that wild story involving Marcus Cooper?
Oh, Petey boy, you won't believe this one. So Marcus Cooper, that brilliant cybersecurity expert we both admire, he once spent 3 days and 3 nights straight in his home lab, like Iron Man in the cave, as he put it. But he wasn't building a high-tech suit. No, he was crafting the most intricate, unhackable encryption algorithm you've ever seen.
3 days and nights? That's intense. What happened?
Well, on the 3rd night, just as he was putting the finishing touches on his masterpiece, he accidentally knocked over his energy drink. It spilled all over his keyboard, shorting out his entire system. Poof! 3 days of work, gone in an instant.
Oh no! What did he do?
Here's the kicker. Instead of getting frustrated, he laughed it off and said it was the universe's way of teaching him about the importance of regular backups and disaster recovery planning. He turned it into a lesson for all his students about the unpredictability of technology and the need for multiple layers of protection.
That's Marcus for you, always finding a teaching moment. Now let's reveal the answer to our last question. The correct answer is D, enabling automatic software downloads. While keeping software updated is important, automatic downloads can introduce security risks if not properly managed.
Absolutely right, Pete. It's all about controlled, tested updates rather than automatic ones.
Well, folks, we've covered a lot of ground today in this UberSchool production. Remember, these mitigation techniques are most effective when implemented as part of a comprehensive, layered security strategy.
That's right, Petey. No single technique is a silver bullet. It's the combination and consistent application of these methods that create a robust security posture. Stay vigilant, keep learning, and always be ready to adapt your security strategies to meet emerging threats.
Couldn't have said it better myself, D-Man. And to all our listeners out there, keep steady and keep practicing, and you'll ace that test. This is Pete.
And Dana?
Signing off from UberSchool. Until next time, stay secure!